That was wonderful, Priyank. I have learned a lot of things. So I'll just start with a story first. A very simple story. When the first expedition for Everest started, uh, the member of that was George Mallory. They failed twice. The reporter asked, "Why do you want to climb Everest?" The answer was very simple: because it's there. That's it. So with this, I'll start. My name is Lalit, and I work for AWS. I manage their security team, and we have three founders here: Akshat, Rahul, and Sandesh. Coming straight to the point, you have started your journey at different stages of your career, different stages of life as well. And uh, Akshat, you started India and US. Rahul, you first going around multiple countries, presenting, talking about security, and founded when I think not many cybersecurity companies from India were there. And Sandesh, you started at a very advanced stage of your career. First of all, on your origin story, what point you thought that, hey, yeah, because it's there, I'm going to do it now. So, what was your story on that, and how did you get your first customer?
So with advanced stage, you're saying I'm old. No, I'm just kidding.
You're younger than me.
Fair enough. So I think you, I mean the one takeaway from your question that I have is that there's no one story or one path to get there, right? So for me, it was very different. I've been kind of doing cybersecurity ever since my eighth semester of engineering. Since then, I've literally worked only in one industry, which is the cybersecurity industry, right? My from my project there to my masters as well as my entire career. So it's the industry itself is not new to me, but I spent close to a decade in consulting, and then I spent 3 years as an operator at Razorpay. And I think, I mean, the origin story essentially is that, you observe so many great companies being built, you observe so much great work happening. And then when I was in the buyer side at Razorpay, I used to always have these complaints about things not going the way I want, vendors not doing what I want. And then, the question was, okay, if that's the case, then maybe, we should put our hat in the ring and see if we can make a difference, right? And it was exciting. I mean, it's always exciting to kind of build a product which has an impact on the world. And yeah, I mean, how I came to a decision is interesting. I think I'm a little maybe too analytical, and I don't take decisions very quickly on life decisions. So I had to make spreadsheets after spreadsheets about what this means for family, what this means for money, what this means for retirement before I even took the plunge. Okay, and then I see some 23-year-old founders who decide on a whim to do it, and I think again it reiterates the story that everybody's journey is different, right? So yeah, so I came to a decision after thinking about it for many years, and then even before I decided to quit Razorpay, I think 6 months before I quit, I'd spoken to everybody at Razorpay and said, I'm going to be doing this, right? So it was a very thought through decision, but that does not mean that's the only way to do it. I'm sure you'll hear from Rahul and Akshat, and their stories will be different.
Asking this. Thank you, Priyank, Accel team, for hosting it again. I think it's a wonderful stage, wonderful setup, and we all have to earn what the team has invested time in. Um, I think if I go by personally, if it's just like, how did you start? Why did you start? Why this? I think that bug has to be there to do many things, to keep solving problem. I'll not say that a job cannot satisfy that, but if you want to solve a new problem every day in a job, you still have to be in the job description charter. We had that bug, both me and another founder. We studied together. We always wanted to start something. In fact, we started something in 2006, but we got married. Like, he got married in 2005. I got married in 2006. It took us 10 years to come out of that shock, and finally we could start. But A, it has to be inside you. B, how did we get the first customer? I think the biggest challenge we have to solve when we get our first customer, the many founders I was meeting today and like last year I remember, and keep meeting across HSR and Koramangala, they start with design partner. I may be 5,000% wrong. My theory about design partner is that design partners are thinking that they are, I'll not say sucking the blood of founder, but they feel that we are getting something for free from them. While I always say that we should use design partner for, as a founder, to get our product tested for free. So they are thinking I'm using their product for free, while we as a founder should see and feel that I'm getting my product tested for free. So design partner is needed, essential, but we have to be very careful in choosing the design partner. But the first customer has to be someone who has the pain point which you are thinking about. If you go to a friend and like someone whom you know, while your product is X and that person pain point is Y, you will end up changing your product because of the first customer. We should be a little cautious there. If it matches with your vision as a founder, then yes. If not, then keep looking for that first customer who really value what you wanted to solve the problem. For us, the first customer was in US, a defense company. We never thought it will be, because generally first customer will be in finance. But we were lucky to have a first customer in a very different domain, and that gave us the boost. But that would be my story and sharing how did we crack the first customer.
Yeah, my story. How many of you have seen this movie Matrix trilogy movies? Okay, good number of people. So I saw this movie in 2004, which is almost 22 years back, and I thought, if ever machines ever retaliate against you and they become sentinel and retaliate against you, humans with the current mechanism would never be able to stop them. So who would be able to stop them, right? If machines becomes really smart, will only be hackers and engineers. So that's when I got super passionate and got into cybersecurity in the first place. So I quit my engineering, went doing cybersecurity research. So my thought has been, how do I become relevant in cybersecurity? Because imagine 20 years from today, if what I think happens, if what is there in the movie happens, we all become very important. Like every one of us will become important in history. So how do I become relevant and be part of that history was always my thought process. So I was doing well in my previous companies. Then my thought is that if I have to do even better than what I'm doing today, I have to build an army of people for this, this future crazy thing, which I'm thinking. And I thought building a company was the best thing then, because then you can assemble a large pool of amazing people. That's how I started. And that's even today, our moat. And we always try to do right for the community, thinking that, well, because this community would be important in the future, right? How we got my first customer, and this is one big lesson I learned, is never say no to anything. Like Sandesh, just ask me, can you sell me my kidney? Just go ahead.
Sell me your kidney.
Uh,
Give me your kidney for free.
I think it's a bad idea, but let me come back to you on that. So the point is, when you say no, and this is something they teach in any service industry, that don't say no, right? When I quit my job, my last job, and I was planning to start up, this company called Blue Jeans reached out to me wanting to offer me a job, and basically an interview, right? They want to interview me for a cybersecurity position. And I told them that I'm starting this company, but I didn't say no to the interview either, right? I told them that I'm starting this company, but let me have this conversation with you and let's see how it goes. And then throughout the interview, I'm getting access to the security folks in that company, right? Who was hiring. So I just pitched what we are building, what the prototype I have. And end of the whole interview process, I got a purchase order from them. Right? That was my first customer. And that has been always, how it is. Like opportunities wouldn't come to you. You could never can never be disappointed saying that we're not getting any opportunities. You have to convert situations into opportunities, and that has been like a very key thing.
Thanks, Rahul. So my personal takeaway is not too late for me as well to start. That's one. Second is, Akshat, what you mentioned is if your vision matches with the industry and you get a validation on that. And Rahul, what you said is about the kidney is don't deny any conversation. You never know what comes out of it. But then founders are in the room. So the first question that they will have is probably, or decision to make is, should I start from India or I should start from US? Where should I start? And how did you arrive at the decision? And there could be many rights or wrongs, but what's your view? If you have to suggest someone, founders in the room, if you have to speak to them directly, uh, what you would suggest considering today's market, how they should start? What are the factors to consider, India market or US market first?
I can go first. So I think COVID changed a few things easily and made it easier. Like I'm sure when before COVID days, post COVID days, things are a little different. Today, I think it does not matter where you are, honestly. Yes, the proximity helps, but we can't hang on that the first 5 customers should be in India or US. I'll say wherever they are. Honestly speaking, they could be in Middle East, they could be in APAC, they could be in India, they could be in US. US has to be there, just to carry from what Priyank was talking about. The ultimate growth will come from there. But personally, I have seen just get your first right 10 customers. The right 10 customer is more important because, again, so they don't deviate you from, maybe the deviation is for the right reason. I know a company, I was talking to them last year in HSR. Uh, though they started, they were doing something in the AI code review side, and because of the first 5 customer, they got the right moat. So I think wherever they are is what my personal preference would be, as long as they're right customers. And US, we have to go there. We can keep discussing that how to crack US. Now, in our case, just a good thing was between two of the founders. One was in US, one was in India. So it was easy for us to crack both, keep building here, keep selling there, also keep selling here. But would love to hear more from Rahul and Sandesh that how to crack the first customer while being in India, to crack first customer of US.
I mean, honestly, I think it's the wrong question to ask, right? I think, even Priyank kind of spoke about kind of how the VCs think about it, and thinking about billion-dollar ideas, etc. I think as a founder, if you're starting up, the first thing you want to figure out is, one, why do you want to solve this problem? Do you really want to go through the pain and process of building a company? And if yes, then why do you want to do it? And the second thing is, what do you want to build? What problem do you want to solve, right? And I think those decisions, whether you want to sell in the US, sell in India, whether you want to be bootstrapped, whether you want to be VC funded, whether you want to do it through consulting, all those questions are downstream of that. Right now, if you are building in, like we are building in the application security space, then anyone who writes software is a customer for me. So so by definition, we are a global company, right? There's no question about it. And if you're thinking about as a global company, then what's the largest market? Then it's the US. At least in the English speaking world, that's the largest market. So it kind of makes sense to think about it, right? But if you're building in a space which is mostly for regulations, then geography matters a lot, right? So for example, if you're building in privacy, it's a great time to be building in India, because there is like a whole wave of DPDPA coming out, and then Europe is probably a better market than most countries who don't, pay too much emphasis on privacy. So I think whether you start in India, whether you start in the US, whether you want to do bootstrapping, these are, in my opinion, at the beginning of a company, tactical decisions, right? Once you figure out why are you building it, what you're building, and what are you actually building, right? So I would say it really, really depends on what you're building. I think it's great. Again, like Akshat said, I think the superpower we have, I think the thing that we kind of underestimate is that Bangalore is kind of truly a global city, right? Even if you may not have too many people from across the world living here, but everybody has some connections. Anybody you talk to has either a cousin or a friend who's gone and done his master's, or who lives in the Bay Area, or has worked with someone, or works for an American company, or works with an Israeli startup, and so on and so forth, right? So we do have global connections, and we should leverage that. But from a business perspective, it's a tactical decision, and it's downstream of what you're building and why you're building. That's kind of how I think about it.
I think the biggest point is, you go where the money is. As simple as that, right? I mean, it doesn't matter whether you do it in India, Singapore. If you don't get money, your business doesn't take off. And I'll tell you, for us, it was very accidental, right? And that's why I align with you, right? There's no right way of any of these. When I say it's accidental, well, when we found in 2015, we got the first customer, and then after first customer, there was like a complete, like flat. We were trying to reach out. In fact, the first large bang came only in 2018. So between 2015, after the first customer, 2018, there was like a downward trajectory, right? So that's when we started approaching international companies, reaching out to them, showing what we were doing. The second customer that came was Gojek. Gojek is like the Uber or Grab of Indonesia. When we got them, and they were excited to pay, what we did is we negotiated with them saying that we'll give you a discount. Give us two things. One, a multi-year contract. Two, for the discount, can you allow us to use your brand name in our press release? Right? Because that was one of the key things. Nobody knew about us at that point of time. So when we did our first press release, like we got the PO, and then the next week we just did the press release. You see, Grab Taxi is another company which is a rival to Gojek, right? And like if you do, the Grab is again like Uber of Singapore, huge rivalry. The founders of those companies were looking at any press release that has Gojek in their title. So the minute they saw that CloudSec tied up with Gojek and 2017 press release, the founder, Andrew Tan, immediately asked the team to reach out to CloudSec and check out what we are doing. So the same week, actually exactly in the same month, actually, we got Grab as a customer as well. Now we have two customers from Singapore. And then came the problem, like purchase order is just a way of saying that, well, you're going to have a deal. Post purchase order, we have to raise invoice, etc., etc. There's a process. That's when you understood that it's quite difficult to actually send money from another country to India. And this is back in 2016, I'm talking about, right? Things are very, very difficult. And that's when I understood that, well, if we had to go collect that money, right? I mean, we have to go put our HQ or subsidiary in another country. So, which is why our company's HQ became Singapore to collect that money, which eventually became, our survival mechanism. And again, which allowed us to survive for the 15, 16, 17, 18 time frame. So you go where the money is what I would say. Yeah.
Can I just add a point to that? Rakshita, my co-founder, and I have an internal joke that every time we define what the ICP for CISO is, the next customer will be outside that ICP. Okay, so we initially said we'll only start with mid-market because they're smaller companies, they're easier to sell to, and then we started getting interest from enterprises. And then we said, okay, if you're going to do enterprises, then we have to have a sales engine. The next customer which came was inbound from a marketplace. We published it, right? So I think the one answer is that you don't know, like Rahul said, follow the money, and the second is be open to change, things changing, right? The market gives you signals, and you've got to kind of like listen to it. So not only do you not know, not only is it different for every product and every company, it's different for the same company over time as well. So my only sense would be to keep your ears open and then kind of like iterate as you go.
No, I agree with this that it's not even a question whether India or US. It's about what's the vision, what we are solving, and then getting those 5 or 10 customers right, and then everything else and we follow the money. So yeah, thanks for that. But now let's come to a little bit on. We always talk about failures as well in startup world and everywhere. What has been your most instructive failure, which you have figured out? If I've done things this way, or you figured out that I would do it this way, and you figured out a success on that. So, what has been one failure that you really learned from? Uh, so, bit a difficult one, but
But everyone's looking at me, so I don't know why. But no, okay. So let me. I'll answer the question a little differently. But I think I'm more interested in listening to Akshat and Rahul here because they've done this for way longer, right? But I mean, to answer this question a little differently, one of the things that I've learned about being a startup founder, which is very counterintuitive, is that I have a 45-minute drive back home every day. Okay, so when I finish my day and drive back, I think about how the day was, and very often I don't know whether to be happy or sad because there are 10 things which go right and 20 things which go wrong, or 20 things that go right and 10 things that go wrong, right? And that's the beauty of kind of being a founder, is that there's so much happening all the time that you don't really have the time to think about failures and what to do with it, right? I think it's useful to kind of recalibrate every week or every month and kind of learn from what happened, but there's really no point thinking and brooding too much over something that failed. And at the same time, there's no point really thinking too much about success and kind of celebrating that for too long, because right around the corner is the next challenge. So my approach has been, the moment you solve one problem, the only right thing to do is to solve the next problem. There's really nothing else to kind of think about it. But that's kind of what I've learned in the last last 1.5 years. I'd love to hear from Akshat and Rahul.
I think, yes, probably I'll not say the failure because maybe it's a negative connotation word, but every day you will have 10 problems, as Sandesh was saying. I think for us, see, that excitement has to be there, that dopamine, serotonin, that adrenaline rush has to be there every day in a founder's life. You give 5 offers, none of them join, it's a failure, right? It's a worry. You reach out to 10 customers, none of them respond, it's a failure. But next day has to be equally excited because you reach out to another 10 customers. You reach out to 10 investors, they say, no, sorry, good, you are good, but sorry, we are not investing in this area. So that's a failure. I think what hurt, which I remember, what hurted us most is when we had our first churn. Because the first churn hurted us most, and that's where you realize that nothing is immune. Means anything can happen. So you have to you have to keep rotating. You have to keep building. What get you the first customer will not get you next 100 customers. So learning will keep happening for different reasons, whether it's an offer decline, whether it's investor decline, whether it's a lead decline, and when you lose your customer. So I think it will happen. You will have every day is a learning day.
Yeah. Well, mine, there's so many. And in fact, you only have failures if you try enough things, right? I think there's something which I feel, a little deep and emotional about is when I started, I was from a pure tech background, right? And starting a business was never my thought process. Like I said, being part of the community, being good, being relevant for the community was always a thought. So when I started, I was so insecure that I was a security engineer, that I'm not a business guy. And that made me make a lot of wrong decisions, that insecurity. And I tell you, right? I mean, I founded the company, and between 2015 to 2022, I was never the CEO of the company, right? Well, I thought I would hire people, I'll focus on the product, and somebody else will run the business for me and build the generate the revenue for me. While I was on the ground selling, by the way, at that point of time. But I thought operationally, right? How do you run how do you run HR? How do you run finance, right? I didn't know anything about any of these things. So maybe we should have, that should be the CEO of a company. That insecurity kind of costed me a lot, technically speaking. So between um, between 2015 to 2022, like I said, right, you're now the CEO of your own company. We only grew from 0 to 2 million in 8 years. And we hired people from outside trying to be the CEO of the companies. The biggest lesson I learned is nobody's going to build your dream. You have to go build your dream, right? You have to wake up every day, have a purpose, and drive it. And thinking that somebody else will do everything for you is never going to happen. That's point number one. Point number two, you have to drive the company from the front, depend on what the nature of the business is. If you're a product company, the product drives forward, nothing else. Where the product goes is where your company goes. So the vision and the business and the product are all in the same direction, and that's what eventually the company leads to. Um, Only after 2022 we made a ton of changes. Like I literally had to overcome this insecurity aspect. And then today we crossed a 10 million ARR, right? And that happened in the last 2 years. So insecurity is the biggest, I would say. I think we have to be a little more confident than what we are, is what I would try to say my biggest mistake has been.
Sorry. So Rahul, what I liked is nobody is going to build your dream. That's so apt. Next, what I would like to you to please help us on your team composition, and when you're scaling from 0 to 1, and then 10 to 100 and beyond, while scaling, how does your team structure also evolve? And while you answer that, what role you initially thought you don't need, and you later on realize that, oh, I should have done this earlier. So something that founders could, who are in early in the journey, could learn from this.
I was just telling Sandesh just right now that I have this debate with one of my investors who has a different point of view, and I have a different. My point of view is that you should always have missionaries than mercenaries part of your team. Missionaries are the ones who join you because of the cause that you know, and they'll fight with you no matter what happens. Mercenaries are the one who are there for the job. So the early team members, and as much as your core team members, have to be missionaries, is what I believe. Again, like in different school of thoughts, different people have, but this has been my strong philosophy throughout.
The team is very important, and I'll just add to what Rahul said earlier. No one will build your dream, but you cannot build the dream without the team. So I'm sure every one of us will agree, because alone we cannot, 100%. Um, and the team and team composition, team requirement will keep changing: 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 to 100. Um, Formula is simple, very same. Like the you need those people who believe in the purpose, the dream, who can make things happen beyond boundary. The 0 to 1, no process, everyone doing everything, all rounders. Because I keep saying that, guys, you don't need a specialized batsman, bowler, or fielder. You need someone who, in the need, can be anything. He can do a fielding at the slip, he can do a fielding at the boundary, he can be a wicket keeper if needed. So, but the same may not be true when you're doing 1 to 10, because in 1 to 10 you will need specialist. Um, I feel, because here I'm assuming for the audience, for the persona, uh, many to be founders or who are just starting seed stage, Series A, early stage. Uh, I believe the founder has to be the first salesperson, first CPO. I'm not saying the tech part, but the product piece has to be founder, and founder for first like 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 customers. And the founder has to keep doing the sales, because the first 1 to 5 million, founder has to be involved. You may have people for paperwork processing, you may have those team members, you may have people to handle your partner channel, everything. But founder has, very, very important, because the first 15, 20 customer, the CISO wants to get to be sold by founder. Certainly the product and the team both matters, because the CISOs are also taking equal risk. Your product is not proven. It may be new category, it may be something different in the existing category. So the sales and product, certainly founder has to lead, and you may have to keep adding people based on the need, how fast you are growing, the kind of territory, market, regional, local, what you are handling. So there is no playbook. except like founder has to be the product and sales for sure, in addition of everything else.
Yeah, so I think strategically I agree with both Akshat and Rahul, right? But since we're kind of very in that journey, the 0 to 1 journey that we have, I think the tactically speaking, the one thing you have to be important about is that your early team has to complement the founders, right? So for Rakshit and me, both of us are from the cybersecurity background. We really understand the industry really well. Our first few hires were all engineers who could build stuff and do research, right? So that was really critical for us because we could handle everything else, right? So I think it really depends on what your persona is. That if you are like two hardcore engineers who are starting a company, right? Like in your case, maybe you can build the product on your own, but then you might need help to do some of the other aspects, right? You still have to sell. I agree with Akshat that especially if you're selling in the US or I think in the Indian tech ecosystem, they really appreciate founders coming and talking to you. In some regions, it's a little different though. They're like, wait, is how is it the CEO has so much time that he's on every call with the customer, right? So they look at it a little differently. But I agree. I think the most important thing there has to be complementary skills. Otherwise, what ends up happening is that if you're a tech person and you hire tech people, then you're so obsessed about the product that you're not thinking about the business. If the founders have a business background and you hire also business people, then you kind of have a lot more blind spots. So I would say optimize for reducing your blind spots. So if you're a subject matter expert, then hire more engineers to build. If you're a builder, then hire a few more subject matters who can kind of fix your blind spot. At least tactically, I think that's what makes sense. On the missionary stuff, I 100% agree. I think being in a startup is hard enough. If they don't believe in the vision, it's pretty much impossible for them to scale up. So I kind of makes sense.
Yeah, just to add one more thing, right? And one of the things you have to, and two things I think you have to put exceptional amount of focus is spend time with your team and the product. These are the two things. My second customer, Gojek, is still my customer. My first engineer who joined me, Shahrukh, he joined in 2017. He's still with us, right? So taking care of your product and your team is what the way to actually successful.
Thank you. I think we are at time, so we're going to conclude this. But with the conclusion, I want to ask. See, every technology has its own impact on a human being. So cybersecurity, especially, and we all are related to cybersecurity here. So from a cybersecurity point of view, how cybersecurity has changed you as a person? It's a little bit of a personal question. You want to leave a comment that how cybersecurity, working in cybersecurity industry, has changed you a person from, let's say, last 20 years working in cybersecurity. Uh, you may want to make some personal comment there.
I'll just add a couple of things there. Thank you for bringing this. So I did not come from security background, by the way. Means probably I'm one of the only few um, outside community who started in the security. Um, I feel security is a problem of technology. If technology was not there, security was not there as a area, as a domain. And security industry will keep evolving as technology evolves, technology changes. Frank was talking about we are at the shift of to moving to AI. Security is moving towards AI. Yes, the core will stay, but probably over the next 10 years as technology changes. And as and when, wherever, whichever domain, whichever industry, technology will keep evolving, changing, the security will keep evolving, changing. So security has to be aligned with technology. So we have to keep thinking that we are there as a byproduct of technology. So we have to keep aligned with that. Yes, it is essential. It will be there. I call ourselves as a technology company solving the problem of security domain. For me, technology security goes hand in hand. Is it essential? Yes. Has it changed us? It has changed everyone's life. It is needed. Like we need physical security, we need cyber security as well in day-to-day life for anything we do. Are we? I can keep going on this topic for hours, but let add because we are over time. Sandesh and Rahul add to this.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe you just wanted that it makes you more paranoid. It
actually,
makes you.
it's the opposite. I was about to say that. My answer actually is that if you look at my journey from like as a kid all the way until finishing engineering, I almost took no risks. Every decision I've taken is the most mainstream decision you can think of. Okay, but the reality is that cybersecurity has actually made me less risk averse. Right, it allows me to take more. It's kind of like having brakes on a car. Brakes is what lets you go fast because when you hit the brake, it will stop. Right, so I think for me, cybersecurity is that way. Right, it's kind of like an insurance policy, or it allows you to take more risks. Right, and I think that's kind of applied in my life as well. Saying, hey, if you can manage risks, then that means you have the guts, the whatever you want to say, to take more on. Right, so when you said how I started, that was the whole thing. If I can manage my long term risks, then in the short term I can take more risks, right? So I don't think security should make you paranoid. It should make you cautious. It should make you think about risk, and once you manage it, that means you can go take bolder steps. So if anything, I think being in cybersecurity has made me less paranoid and more confident that as long as you do the right things, maybe you can take on more.
Yeah, I mean, in Priyank's slide, he spoke about community. Let me ask you this, right? How many of you guys know at least 5 people in this room? Just raise your hands. At least 5 people, right? And if you ask the same question to a CFO or a VP of finance, you would not see that. Have you ever thought why cybersecurity community is so connected together? The interesting, and I spent some time thinking about it, right? When calamities happen, that's when people come together. Cybersecurity community is on a daily basis firefighting. You are dependent on somebody else for your daily needs, which is why you have to build that relationship and the association, which is not there in certain other communities, right? If you ask my engineer, if you know other 5 engineers from 5 other companies, only if it's his flatmate, he would know. Otherwise, he wouldn't. And that is the core of this community. Trust and integrity is super important, and the community relationship is super strong in this industry. Another industry I've seen this is in the medical field. Doctors know each other. Again, very similar thing. They have to be updated about everything which is happening on a daily basis. So they would have 5 other doctors on their WhatsApp list to be connected. So trust and integrity, I think, is important for the community. And I think that is something we all, I think everybody has, this community has, and I think that is something I would have looked up to improve on myself as well, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you. Personally, for me, security has been very positive in a way that I assess every situation and I look at it, risk understood, risk accepted, and move ahead. Thank you very much for your time. I think we are already up.
Yeah, thank
with
you,
time.
Lalit, for hosting
Thanks.
us.
Thank you.
I'll just say that, guys, we all are available. Love to learn from each one of you. As Priyank was saying, let's talk. More than happy, all of us, to share our experience and learn from you what each one of you are building. And thank you, Priyank and Accel, again for making it happen. Only you guys can do it, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you.